everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of Stay Creative York County. My name is Sarah. The reason why this episode is so special is that it will be doing a craft kit that is part of our Patchwork celebration. This year we are holding our 20th annual Patchwork Storytelling Festival, and it will be entirely virtual. There is going to be a link in the description below that will take you to the Patchwork Festival site, and you can learn more about the performers and when and where we're going to be having those virtual events. This year, it being our 20th, we have 20 performers and several different types of storytellers who are bringing their unique tales and styles to the festival. So if you're looking for something to do with you, friends, or the whole family, then check out that link in the description below and join us for Patchwork. We hope to see you there. So the craft today is actually part of a kit that will be available at the Rock Hill Library. It will be available on Monday, March 8th, 2021. This is a no-sew patchwork fleece blanket. So the kit will come with almost everything you need. You will get pre-cut squares of fleece, and you will also get a small template to cut the fringe around the edges of those pieces of fleece. And what you will need to bring, if you have the kit, it would be good to have some fabric scissors and a nice large work area to work on the blanket. It is something you could hold in your lap, but it might be good to cut on a flat surface, and then you can move to another location for the rest of the craft. But as the title implies, no sew, no needle, no threads. So if you're not able to pick up a kit for this, I will be giving instructions on how to prepare materials to make one on your own or with your own fabric. If you decide that you would like to do it on your own, you will of course need to determine how big of a blanket you would like to do. We are going to be doing a 4x5 blanket using 12x12 squares of fleece. You will also want to get the right amount of fleece, and you might want to pick out some different colors. So choose your design, see how much you're going to need. You will also need some fabric scissors, though you may decide to use a rotary cutter for your larger pieces. We used a 12x12 cardboard template that we created to draw on the fabric and cut our squares, but you may have a quilter's ruler and a rotary cutter with a self-healing mat. So really you just need the fabric, the means to measure it, and the means to cut it. This video will show you how to do it on your own and also how to do it with the kit materials. Down below in the description, we will also link the instructions we're putting in the kit so you can follow those as well. So without further ado, I'm very excited to get into the video. It's going to be a long one today. This is a time-consuming project, so make sure you know you might not get this all done in one go. It might be a whole day. You might break it up throughout an entire month or week. So, all right, friends, let's get started. Okay, friends, so if you don't have access to our kit for patchwork, that's okay. I'm going to tell you how to get to the point to where you get to the pieces in the kit, so you'll be able to make it yourself. Then past that point, I'll be explaining how to use the materials in the kit, and we can all make a no-sew patchwork blanket together. So if you are not going to be able to get our kit, I will show you what you will get inside if you do get the kit. You will get your squares of fabric pre-cut, and they will look like this. So the way this was cut was that we had a template that was 12x12. We laid that over the fabric. We cut a 12x12 block, then cut 2x2-inch squares from the corners. I will link to a diagram down below where it will explain this and also how the cuts are made on the fringe. So if you have your own fabric and want to create your own blanket, decide what colors or prints that you want to go together for your patchwork. If you want to make a template, you could always use recycled materials like cardboard to create your template. Or if you want to invest a little bit of money into this or anticipate you're going to do it for longer, you may find it easier to have something like this. This is a quilter ruler, Quilter rulers come in different sizes. This one is a 12 by 12 inch block. It does have a 1/2 inch extra on the sides. So you could use this or your template, take it and put it down on top of your fabric. Now you may be able to see, I already have some lines here, but I'm just going to lay this down and match the edges with the 12s on the side and the edges along here. Now with your template, you would just put it on top. And since you can't see through it, you really just want to make sure that your template goes to the edges here. If you're going to be using scissors, once you have your template down, you want to use something to mark the fabric. So we used a white chalk sewing pencil to mark the edges when we created the kit. You have other options as well. If you want to wash this after you make it, you could use something like a blue washout pencil. Or you could use something like this air and water soluble ink pen. Has a very fine point to it. Now the white chalk is softer and it is able to draw on the fleece. I didn't use this blue washout pencil for this project because this is a very hard pencil at the top and it didn't mark very well on the fleece. So since I left the chalk at work so we could get those kits prepared, I have this pen here that I used to draw along the edges of my template. So now I can cut it with scissors. Now, you may have a rotary cutter. Rotary cutter is very useful when you're using these rulers because what happens is you press this button, which lowers this rotating blade, kind of like a pizza cutter, so that you can put it on the edge of the template and run it up and down. Rotary cutters for fabric will cut through the fabric. And they also have these safety features that guard you from touching the blade at the top. And they have this feature here where it snaps back. Yours might look different, but this is how mine looks. Now, if you are going to use a rotary cutter, you want to protect the surface you're cutting because not only will it cut through this fabric, it will cut through my tablecloth and probably into the plastic table below. So, if you're going to be using a rotary cutter with the template, you want to make sure you have a self-healing mat. This is the only one that I have. This is a 12 by 12 one, but you can get ones in different sizes, even ones that would cover my entire work area. They are found in the sewing section, usually at craft stores, so that's where you can find it. This one particularly rotates and is good for making quilting blocks. But for today, to demonstrate, I'm not going to be using the rotary cutter. I'm going to be using scissors. These are fabric scissors. These are just for fabric as I have written on them. Comment down below, did you grow up in a household where you did not by any means touch the fabric scissors to cut paper for projects or anything else? Because I did. So I have my block marked with these lines. And I will let you know, because I know there are a wide range of people, you may be saying to yourself, I have to cut these lines very straight, and that is not the case at all. The edges are going to be fringe, and therefore we're going to be tying them together to create our patchwork piece. So don't worry if it gets a little wobbly, that's totally fine. There is room for error on this, so just be patient with yourself, take your time, and make sure you make the time. This will be time consuming. So I'm going to make my first cut. And I'm just going to follow that line. As you can see, I'm not worried about how wobbly my hand is. So yeah, so now we're going to cut the top. Okay, so I have my first 12 by 12 square. For the kit project, it is going to be a 4 by 5 blanket, so you will need 20 squares. If you're doing this on your own, just keep in mind you want enough fabric to create the size of blanket you want. So now that we have the 12 by 12 inch cut, we're going to cut the 2 by 2 inch squares from the corners. So you can do a similar method. You can use scissors, Or you may have a smaller quilter ruler like this that again has a 2x2 with a 1/2 inch allowance on either side here. Or you might get resourceful and find something around the house that already measures 2x2. So this right here is a mini canvas that is in the mini collage take and make that's at the Rock Hill branch. Those are still available right now at the time of recording this video. These are 2x2 inch, so they fit there. So I'm going to use this little canvas and my marker. And since I can't see through this, I'm just going to make sure that my edges are pretty lined up. And then I'm going to mark. And then I will cut. So I'll put it up here. Also keep in mind what you choose to mark with. This is a dark ink, so I can see it pretty well on this fabric. But if you have a darker material, you may not be able to use this. You may want to go with something like the white chalk. It might show up easier. Okay, I have my 4 corners marked, so I'm just going to use a little bit of filming magic to get these corners cut. But if you don't have filming magic, you may have your scissors or your rotary cutters or what you would like to cut with. I like using the scissors for something like this because whereas with the bigger square, I could cut into the next block. I don't really want to cut into this fabric here because they are the fringe. So I like using these. So here we go with the filming magic. 3, 2, 1, and there we go. We also now have these little 2x2 inch squares of fleece. You may have a use for them. Sometimes I like to use something like this or something smaller to create stuffing for crocheted pieces or sewn pieces. But stay creative. Viewers, what would you do with these? Put down in the description below, in the comments down below what you would do with these. So here is our cut block. This block looks like the ones that are going to be in the kit, prepared and ready for you. So this will be where we start talking about what those with the kit and those without the kit can do to create your blanket. So these edges here that are sticking out now are going to be your fringe. They measure roughly 8 inches, and that is because we had 12 inches on one side. We took out 2 and 2, so that's 4. 12 minus 4 is 8. So if you take your ruler, it's roughly 8. Of course, there may be some wobbly bits. That's okay. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to be cutting 1-inch strips out of these edges. So we will have 8 pieces of fringe on each of the 4 sides. Then when we bring our pieces together, we will match those and be able to tie the pieces together and create our no-sew patchwork fleece blanket. So the way that you want to do this may be different depending on what you have available to you. As we stated before, you may have a ruler. It could be like this. It could just be a regular ruler, like so. You could use this, line it up with your edges, and if you feel comfortable, you could take your scissors and cut those pieces of fringe. So I'll do that with this side. Now I'm already seeing this is a little less than 8, but that's okay. Like I said, there is room for error on this. So I do have this line right here where I want it to go up to. You could lay something flat onto here to make sure that you don't cut all the way up. And then line up your scissors with the 1 inch here. Go in and cut up to the line. Move down the ruler, line it up, and cut up to the line. There we go. Now if I wanted to, I could just kind of go in and snip up a little bit if the ruler was in the way, but I think that looks good. So that's one way you can cut the fringe. You can see there's our fringe now. Another way you could do this is if you had a template that you wanted to cut out, it would need to be 2 inch by 1 inch. You could use recycled materials for this. For instance, I have this piece of kind of thin cardboard material that came with a pack of paper, I believe, or with a package. So what I could do is take this piece, measure 2 inches from the bottom and 1 inch across, and cut out a rectangle. What I think I'm going to do is use this little guy. It's 2 by 2. So it already has the height. Just gonna make sure we got the width going on. Use my pen and my guide to cut that. And then I'm gonna use different scissors. That's right, because we don't use the fabric scissors on the cardboard. Great job. So here are my regular scissors that don't say fabric only. I'm gonna take that template and cut it out. I could take this with me now. This makes the project a little bit more portable. I could hold this and either hold it in place and cut if I felt pretty sure, or I could use it to mark where the fringe should be. I will add a third option for those who just don't want to go by the rules and want to do your own thing and really have this be more intuitive. Because this is a 8 fringe, it's a even number, so you could roughly see half, then cut half of that half, and then half of that half, and be able to get 8 pieces of fringe. However you choose to do it, once you have your fringe cut, we can move on to the next step. I am going to show you how to bring 2 pieces together. Okay, so now that I have these 2 cut pieces with the fringe ready on both sides, I want to put these next to each other. So you may have a particular design in mind. Make sure you refer to that. Now, before we get into tying, I do want to talk about how there is a right and a wrong side of the fleece. So if you look at your fleece pieces, you may notice that one side has more texture to it, while the other side is more smooth. The more textured side is considered the right side of the fabric. So this is what would be on the outside of a garment or be the facing outside of a blanket. With the print, you can tell by the smoothness and the roughness. You may also tell that there is a difference in the color. The wrong side of it will be a little bit more pale. This side will look a little darker because of that texture. Okay, so once you have found the right side and you have that up and you have the 2 pieces cut with the fringe, you are going to start tying them together. So I'm going to show you the knot method. And what makes it easier to put these together is if you take your piece of fringe, and I'm just going to put my hand here at the end of the fringe, I'm going to pull a little bit. And that'll stretch the fringe a little bit so it's a little easier to work with. So now we're going to take these matched sides here. So this is the first piece of fringe from this, and this is the first piece of fringe from the other. And I am going to tie them together. I will put the name of the knot on the screen. This is the most common way to bring these pieces together. And there we go. So we have brought these 2 pieces together with a knot. So then you just continue that down the row until you're done tying them. Okay, I'm just checking to make sure I have everything nice and tight. Looking good. That's all 8. And then I can lay this, stretch it out a little bit, and there we have our 2 pieces together. So it may not look like much now, but once you build it up, this will become a very cozy blanket. Okay, so that was the tie method. There is a different way to do this, and that is called the no knot method. What you will do is you will take your pieces. So I have this edge of fringe and I have cut this edge of fringe, and I want to bring these 2 pieces together. So what I'm going to do is, I know that I want my piece to be right side up. So the way that I'm going to lay this is I'm going to put wrong sides matching. So I'll show you what that means. This is the right side of this piece of fleece, and this is the right side of this piece of fleece. So to put the wrong pieces together, I'm going to flip this piece so that the wrong side is faced up. Then I'm going to take my other piece of fleece with wrong side face down so that the 2 wrong sides are facing each other, and bring it on top of this piece of fabric down here. So then I'm going to match my pieces of fringe up. So now that I have the wrong sides facing each other and I have my ends of my fringe matched up together, so 1 to 1, 2 to 2, and on to 8 to 8, I am going to take my scissors. You may have these. I've also seen someone use snippers, which are used for other quilting things. It's a shorter end on the blade here, but it's more like clippers you see for outside work, but it's to get into small spaces and cut. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going halfway in the piece of fringe, both pieces, and I'm going to be cutting a slit near the top. And the way to do this through both so that they're matching is to fold the fringe pieces like that and to cut on that folded end. Now you don't want to go into the block up here that's going to be showing in your quilt. So you want to make sure you come down a little bit from the top. I'm just going to use this flat edge here and come down maybe 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to take my fabric and fold so that I can cut up to this right here. This cut is going to be about 1/4 of an inch. So it's going to be a 1/2 inch once it's done, because it's going to cut through the folded fabric. Now, unfortunately, the ends of my scissors are not going to be enough, so I'm just going to hold that, bring the ends here, and just cut in for about 1/4 inch. Then I'm going to bring these down and check to make sure that I have a cut through both. I do. The one here is kind of shallow, so, or it's not as wide as it needs to be, so I'm just going to cut a little extra. All right. So now that we have our cut on both pieces of fabric, we're going to take the ends of our fringe and we're going to bring it up and through the slit that we cut in both of those pieces of fabric. So I've brought it up and into this, and I'm going to pull it down, both pieces of fringe down to tighten it. So now, instead of having a round knot like we do up here, we have this no knot method here. Okay, so once you've put all of your pieces together, you are going to have some fringe that is on the outside. So you may decide to do a couple of things with it. You could leave it as it is and just these rectangular pieces. You could also take two pieces of fringe together and tie them like you did in the middle. You just want to make sure you're not too tight with that knot on the first one. There you go. You could do that. Or you could also do the no knot method, but just with one piece. So you would cut a slit at the top, and instead of going through two pieces of fabric, you just go through one, and then bring that bottom up and through that. So it will be more like this. You will fold, cut. So it's about a 1/2 inch there of a cut. Bring your bottom up and through. And it just creates a different kind of look on the outside. Now, personally, I would just leave them as they are. I think that's my choice for this. And if I had to go with another option, I would choose tying the two pieces together. But I really just like these pieces here. I think that is going to give you less bunching if you tie them together, but this right here will also create more of texture. So when you're making your blanket, you might be making it for yourself or for others. What I really like about this project, other than being no-sew, is that you can use fabric that is from the craft store off the bolt, or you can take fleece blankets that come from Walmart or Target, and they're just the single layer like this. You could use those. So if you have some blankets that you want to repurpose, you could remix them together into something different. These are also interesting blankets because they're not flat, right? You have these ruffles here that you can play with. You have these knots here you can hold on to. You have the fabric on top, which is just a smoother surface. It has that little bit of texture to it that's not too caustic. So this is a great gift for yourself or for a loved one. Something that I didn't discuss when I was doing the craft at the end is that once you're done with this, you may want to personalize it further. You could use fabric markers or fabric pens to write on the solid colored material here and put your name on it, have friends or family write something on it, put your initials, put the date. It's a great way to personalize something when you're using fabric that's available widely. Okay friends, thank you for sticking with me throughout that entire video. I hope that you found it helpful, and I hope that if you came here to learn how to do it by yourself with your own materials, that you got something out of it. I really hope that you are able to make this blanket and use it yourself or gift it to someone else. I'm excited to continue working on mine, and I will post a picture on Facebook when I'm done. So friends, without further ado, I will again encourage you to look at the patchwork events in the description below. It's all going to be virtual. We are coming to you. Some of our performers have graciously allowed us to record some of the sessions, so you can also check out our YouTube channel. So friends, remember to stay safe and be patient with yourself when you're learning a new skill. And as always, stay creative, York County.